New Hampshire Key Facts Abbreviation NH Nickname the Granite State Capital Concord Flower Purple lilac Tree White birch Bird Purple finch Motto Live free or die Well-known residents and natives Josiah Bartlett Daniel Webster Horace Go West Young Man Greeley Mary Baker Eddy Brooke Astor, Robert Frost, Grace Metalious, J.D. Salinger, John Irving, P.J. O'Rourke, Ken Burns, Adam Sandler. If the word lobster is furrow-yoked to Maine, then who can separate from New Hampshire the word primary? But what the heck is a primary, let alone a New Hampshire one? Something to do with politics, one is almost certain, but what, precisely? Primaries in the USA are election races for the presidential nomination. There are, as I expected you know, two parties in American politics. The Democrats, symbol a donkey or jackass, and the Republicans, the grand old party, symbol an elephant. When the time for presidential election comes, each party must field a candidate. And who that candidate might be is decided by the outcome of primaries and caucuses and conventions, but we'll leave them for the time being. Only registered members of Republican Party can vote for Republican candidates, and only registered Democrats for theirs. Like many American institutions, it makes sense, is very democratic, transparent, and open, but comes down, fundamentally, to race, religion, media, and most of all, money. And why is the New Hampshire primary so important? Because it is traditionally the first of the cycle to be held. The primacy of the New Hampshire primary derives primarily from its prime position as the primary. To lose badly here can dish a candidate's chances from the get-go, as they like to say, while to win first out of the traps can impart valuable momentum. Huge amounts of money and effort are expended by all the runners and riders here. The people of New Hampshire, one of the smallest states in physical size and population, although also one of the most prosperous, are treated every 4 years to more political speeches, sincere promises, sunny compliments, and rosy blandishments than any other citizens in America, in the world possibly. The presidential election takes place every 4 years, 2004, 2008, 2012, and so on. The primaries begin in the preceding years, 2003, 2007, 2011. I arrived in Manchester, New Hampshire in October 2007, just as the primary season for the 2008 elections is hotting up. You will know now who won, but as I knock on the door of a certain campaign office, I am certain of nothing other than that it appears to be a close race for both parties. The Democrats are going to have to choose between Hillary Clinton, Chris Dodd, John Edwards, Barack Obama, and Bill Richardson. The Republicans have Rudy Giuliani, Mike Huckabee, John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Fred Thompson. So the next US president could be a woman, a Mormon, a Latino, an African American, a Baptist minister, or a television actor. There are certainly plenty of firsts on offer. On the road with Mitt. I am welcomed to the office by a very pretty young girl called Deirdre. The name and the red hair offering picture book testament to her Irish ancestry. She is one of the many hundreds, indeed thousands of students and young people who dedicate their time and this season to helping their chosen candidate. Her guy, and for this day my guy too, is Republican Mitt Romney. I just love him. He is awesome. What's different about him, I wonder? I saw him last year, just about like before he announced. Just listening to him speak, his charisma and such is mind-boggling. Whatever my own political views, and they happen not to coincide strikingly with those of Governor Romney, I am touched to be trusted so much by the campaign team, who leave me free to follow Deirdre around, handing out flyers, badges, Americans call them buttons, and posters, and attending to the low-level but necessary groundwork that devolves to young campaign Keeney. As a matter of fact, my production team and I had also approached Clinton's and Obama's people on the Democratic side who, true to their donkey nature, were obstinate and would not budge, nor behind the scenes filming. But Giuliani's and Romney's team were only too happy to help us out, no strings attached. I was simultaneously impressed and disappointed by the laid-back, friendly and calm atmosphere of the campaign office. I had expected and rather looked forward to the frenzy, paranoia and brilliant, fast-talking, wisecracking repartee of the TV series West Wing. Deirdre and I watched Mitt make a speech at a hospital and then at a family home. These house parties are Meet Met, events where local people turn up and are encouraged to just go ahead and ask Meet anything. A tidy lower middle-class home in Hooksett, NH, has been chosen complete with standard Halloween garden decoration and an aroma of cinnamon. What is it with Americans and cinnamon? The smell is everywhere. They flavor chewing gum with it, they ruin wine and coffee with it, they slather it over chicken and fish. It is almost peculiar. Deirdre and I turn up armed with pamphlets and only minutes before the governor himself arrives. The excitement is palpable. The householders, Rod and Patricia, are so proud and pleased they look as if they might burst. All their friends and neighbors have gathered. Video news crews are lined up pointing at the fireplace, whose mantelpiece is replete with miniature pumpkins, artfully stuffed scarecrows, and dark red candles scented with, of course, cinnamon. With a great flurry of handshakes and smiles, Smith is suddenly in the house, marching straight to the space in front of the fireplace where a mic on a stand awaits him as for a stand-up comedian. He is wearing a smart suit, the purpose of which, it seems, is to allow him to whip off the jacket in a moment of wild unscripted anarchy, so as to demonstrate his informality and desire to get right down to business, and to hell with the outrage and horror this will cause in his minders. British MPs and candidates of all stripes now do the same thing. The world over, male politicians have trousers that wear out 3 times more quickly than their coats. And who would vote for a man who kept his jacket on? Why it is tantamount to broadcasting your contempt for the masses. Politicians who wear jackets might as well eat the common people's children and have done with it. Romney is impressive in a rather ghastly kind of way, which is not really his fault. He has already gone over so many of his arguments and rehearsed so many of his cunningly wrought lines that, try as he might, the techniques he employs to inject a little life and freshness into them are identical to those used by game show hosts, the class of person Governor Romney most resembles. Lots of little chuckled in phrases like Am I right? And gosh, I don't know, but it seems to me that heck, maybe it's time, and so on. In fact, he's so like an American version of Bob Mudhouse in his verbal and physical mannerisms that I become quite distracted. Rod and Patricia beam so hard and so shiningly they begin to look like the swollen pumpkins that surround them. Hey, I don't live and die just for Republicans or just for backing down Democrats. I wanna get American right, says Smith when invited to blame the opposition. Amanda makes an almost indiscernible gesture from the back, which Smith picks up on right away. Time to leave. I have just loved talking to you folks, he says, pausing on the way out to be photographed. This is what democracy means. I told you he was awesome, says Deirdre. In the afternoon, we move on to Phillips Exeter Academy, one of the most famous, exclusive, and prestigious private schools in the land. The Eden of American, that educated Daniel Webster, Gore Vidal, John Irving, and numerous other illustrious Americans all the way up to Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, as well as how the lineup of indie rockers Arcade Fire. The school has an endowment of $1 billion. In this heady atmosphere of privilege, wealth, tradition, and youthful glamour, Mead is given a hard time. The students question the honesty of his newly acquired anti-gay, anti-abortion values. It seems he was a liberal as governor of Massachusetts and has now had to add a little red meat and iron to his policies in order to placate the more right-wing members of his party. The girls and boys of the school, whose Democratic club is more than twice the size of its Republican, I am told, are unconvinced by the governor's wriggling and squirming on this issue, and he only just manages, in the opinion of his observer at least, to get always with not being jeered. I could quite understand his shouting out, "What the hell you rich kids think about families beats the crap out of me," but he did not, which is good for his campaign but a pity for those of us who like a little theater in our politics. By the time he appeared on the steps outside the school hall to answer some press questions, I was tired. Even if he was not, the scene could not have been more delightful. A late afternoon sun set in the bright autumn leaves on fire, smooth, noble, and well-maintained collegiate architecture and lawns, and American politics alive and in fine health. I came away admiring Governor Romney's stamina, calm, and good humor. If every candidate has to go through such slog and grin day after day, merely to win the right finally to move forward and really campaign, then one can at least guarantee that the leader of the free world, whoever she or he may be, has energy and even temper and great stores of endurance. I noticed that the governor's jacket has somehow magically been placed in the back of his SUV, ready to be put on in order to be taken off again next time. Bretton Woods. New Hampshire is more than just a political petri dish. However, it is also home to some of the most beautiful scenery in America. The White Mountains are a craggy range that form part of the Great Appalachian chain that sweeps down from Canada to Alabama. Reaching their peak at Mount Washington, the highest point in America east of the Mississippi, and whose foothills sprawls the enormous Mount Washington Hotel at Bretton Woods. Damn, politics again. I never studied economics at school, and for some reasons I had always thought that the Bretton Woods Agreement was like the whore lover pact, the product of two people, one called Breton and one called Woods. No, the system that gave the world the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and stable exchange rates based on a decided value for gold was the result of a conference in 1944 here in Bretton Woods, attended by all the allied and unallied nations who knew that the post-war world would have to be reconstructed and developed within permanent and powerful institutions. The economic structure of the world since, for good and ill, has largely flowed from that momentous meeting, if structures can be said to flow. The hotel is certainly big enough to house such a giant convention. It is hard not to think of Jack Nicholson and The Shining as I get repeatedly lost in its vast corridors and verandas. I sip tea and watch the huge vista of a misty, drizzly afternoon on the mountains recede into a dull evening. If fate is kind to me, the next day will dawn bright and sunny, perfect for an expedition to the summit. Unluckily for Mount Washington, sees the least sunshine and the worst weather of anywhere in America. That is an official fact. Fate is immensely kind, however. Not only does she send a day as sparklingly clear as any I have seen, but she also makes sure that the train and cog line are in prime working order so I can make my way up the 6,000 feet in comfort and without the expenditure of a single calorie, all of which, thanks to my American diet, have far too much to do swelling my tummy to the bothered with exercise. A steam locomotive, nozzle pointing cutely down, ready to push us all up the hill, puffs gently at the foothills. This rack and pinion line has been taking tourists and skiers to the top of Mount Washington for over 140 years. I join a happy crowd of people on board. The engineer, which is American for engine driver, does something clever with levers at the back of the train, and after enough clanking and grinding, we are off. Up front, the green-faced brakeman tells me a little about the locomotive. What, the first in the world? Yep. It wasn't actually, but I haven't the heart to tell him. The world's first cog railway was in Leeds, England, but the Mount Washington line was the first ever to go up a mountain. That's what counts. Up we go, pushed by the engine at no more than a fast walking pace. I can almost hear the locomotive whiz, "Gonna make it, gonna make it, gonna make it," and make it we do. New Hampshire, the highest point in Old Hampshire that I have ever visited, is Watership Down, a round green hillock famous for its bunny rabbits. The great granite crags of the White Mountains are a world away from the soft chalk downs of the mother country. The sheer scales is dizzying. I feel as if I have visited two huge countries already, and all I have done is take a look round a couple of America's smaller states. The Appalachians, and I have a long way still to go before we reach the south. I gaze down as they march off out of view. What a monumentally, outrageously, heart-stoppingly beautiful country this is, and how frighteningly big.